Hey guys, 4.2. After you watch the video for 4.2, then you need to do 4.2 step 2 and step 3. These are must-dos. The directions for 4.2 step 2, pick a book, find others who are not reading the same book, and make a book club. So no more than 4 people, please. Include yourself, as the directions say. So I'm going to put my name there, and I'm going to put the name of my book. Now, I can't be in a group with anybody who's also reading Tyrell, right? Because all of the books need to be different, okay? So I could read, I could be in a book with Sally Seashore because she is reading Street Farm. And I could be in a book with Seymour Butts because he is reading, what is he reading? Zombie. And so the 3 of us are going to be in a group. Now, the next part is very important because this is where you figure out which pages you're going to read for which deadline. All right? The first deadline is next Friday. All right? So you're going to put the title of your book. I've got the author's name in there too. And then this book, the one that I am reading, can you see it? Not really. The one I'm reading is Tyrell by Coe Booth. And so I look at to see how many pages it has. And it has a total of 310 pages. So since we have 4 deadlines, I'm going to break 310 up by 4 to see about how many pages I need to read for each deadline. So if I want to make sure that I'm doing my math correctly, I can use my handy dandy calculator and divide 310 by 4 and find out that it's about 78 pages. So my deadlines should be about 78 pages long. Some books start on page 1, some books don't. Tyrell happens to start on page 1. So I'm going to start on page 1 for my first reading deadline, and the end of the reading deadline is really the most important because this is what I have to get to for the first deadline, which is on March 17th, okay? So if it's about 78 pages, I'm going to look on page 79 and say, is that a good place to end my reading? Well, it turns out 79 is not the end of a chapter, but it's close to the end of the chapter. The chapter ends on 81. So I could either say pages 1 to 81 for the first reading deadline, or if I feel like maybe I'm going to be a little bit kinder on myself for this first reading, since I'm still getting to know the characters, the setting, and since later on we do have spring break where I could potentially get caught up on some of these pages, I am going to say I'm going to read to page 66 for my first reading deadline, because that is the end of the chapter before. So it's the first 10 chapters. Okay, so then my next one is going to start, my next reading deadline date is March 24th, and that's right before we go away for spring break. So it's still in the next 2 weeks. So I think looking at about another 78 pages is probably a good idea. If I look at the calendar, I notice that we do have to take a mid-unit summative assessment on one of those days. And so, you know, I don't want to maybe make up those pages I missed on the first reading yet. So 67 plus 78 is going to put me roughly in the 140s. And if I go to the 140s, I see that there's a chapter that ends on 137 and then a chapter that ends on 150. So I'm going to go ahead and say 137 for the second deadline, because what we have in between these 2 weeks is spring break, right? April 6th is the next deadline. So April 6th is on a Thursday after we get back from break. So here's where I'm going to give myself some more pages to read here. Also knowing that it usually goes faster to read the end of a book and rather than the beginning. So I'm going to start on 138, and I know I need to get through to, what did I say, 333? No, 310. So 310, 138, if I take a look at those numbers and I want to make it kind of, you know, even out for me, then I'm looking at 172 pages between the two deadlines, about 86 pages between each. So 138 plus 86, now we're looking at about 224. So I'm going to turn to 224 and see if that's close to the end of a chapter. It is. 225 is the end of a chapter. So I'm going to try to read 138 to 225 for April 6th, knowing that I have a week at home for spring break when I can do some reading. Okay, then let's see. The last deadline would be 226 to 310. All right, making these deadlines ahead of time is really helpful to keep us motivated to finish the book. So please make your deadlines for 3.2 now and show these along with your group members to your teacher for the 3.2 mastery check. Thanks.